Hello, and welcome back to another devlog type of video. Today we're going to be focusing more on, I guess, the aspects of level design and what I've been doing since the last video. It's funny how things shift so rapidly. So I went from making a short little demo level called Dork Souls demo that blossomed into the idea to make a more fully fledged sort of action RPG, Dark Souls cute type deal, which became Dork Souls, the actual game that you can find on Dreams. After I worked on that a bunch, I learned a whole lot of ways to use Dreams and logic and things, and that got me thinking. And I took a break. So, Dreams, week 3, demo level game, done. Now I need to make something else just to get it out of my system. So I took some of the things I had learned and some of the other things I wanted to do, and I made something simple. Made Ball Blaster, which was just a top-down stick shooter. Get the high score, blast as long as you can. Simple game. I reused a lot of assets, things like that. Just, had to get something out of my system. I don't know. I have a bajillion games going through my head. So many combinations of possible games to make. And it's been floating around for decades. So it's pretty easy for me to just get bored with what I'm doing and spit out something new. So I did that, and then while I was doing that, I get antsy, need something new to work on, and I had an idea for a game that has been floating in my head for, again, a long time, a very, very long time. It was going to be my passion project. I went to school to make video games. This was going to be this was my big idea. Never made it, but I made several versions of it in my head, including a 2D Flash version, which I was inspired to turn into a 3D Dreams version, which is to say it's not the full-fledged game I want to make, but it is a cute kind of representation of it. And that's where we are now. In the process of getting that started, I started with just a simple idea of a cul-de-sac, just to test my idea, because that's where most of my games start. Is I get the idea for the game, I make a test level, and I start making the elements and seeing if they work together, and if they do, then I go from there. In this case, I started with the cul-de-sac, and I made I made a zombie, and in the process of figuring out how to make the zombie spawn and work the way I wanted him to, I stumbled upon a new understanding and dreams of how to use emitters and how the randomizer works and ways in which I could use that. And that brings us to what we're going to talk about mostly in this video today, which is level design and a little technique I stumbled upon that is obviously not new to anybody who's probably been doing this, and I'm sure it's used a lot. But for me, it was a revelation, and in doing so, I was able to create the cul-de-sac, which is just a normal little scene. Then I made a door on each of the houses, and then that door goes to just one scene. But that scene is the interior of a house, and that house randomly generates itself each time it loads, thereby giving you the illusion of a different house each time. And then with that, I was able to randomize other elements, from everything to the music, to the lighting, the time of day. Any element you can think of can actually be randomized, and in doing so, you can create a pretty natural feeling, realistic environment. So I started with the house, and I made an interior, which, like I said, I randomized all the items that I'd wanted, randomized locations of things, like furniture, things that spawn, the doors that open, zombies, whether they spawn or not, everything can now be randomized. I can put things on timers, randomize the timers. It's pretty endless. So what started as trying to get zombies to just pop up in a random way turned into, oh, I can make a level that feels endless and it's just one scene. I don't have to make 7 houses to go in. I can make one house and make it as elaborate as I want through randomization. You can change the colors of items, the items themselves, objects like the couch, for instance. You can make a couch. You can make that couch have, 7 different colors that randomize when it loads. Then you can make that couch emit and load it in anywhere you want in different positions randomly. And then every time it gets loaded, it's got a different color. So it can be in the same position but a different color. It adds a whole level of depth and randomization. And if you watched any of my previous videos where I talked about like natural designing nature, and the key element to designing something that feels natural is controlled random, controlled chaos, controlled randomization. And in this instance, it's perfect. Because you are literally controlling the randomization of items so that it feels natural. Each house is essentially, if you've ever been to a bunch of different houses, every house is essentially the same. Everybody's house is different in the sense that, like, maybe the one door's over here and the bathroom's over here, but the main difference is the way their furniture and the interior are set up. Otherwise, most houses are the same. So you don't have to worry too much about making your houses, different. And to that point, you could even take things such as the staircase, hallways. You can make entire levels of the house random, and you can set them up in a way that maybe your stairs spawn in different spots so that you can actually have different layouts. I didn't go that far in this case, but it is possible. I elaborated further on this technique later in another section where I wanted it to feel like you were walking through a city. But I'm limited in dreams by the gameplay and the graphics memory and all that. So I was able to make a scene that was basically a randomly generating street. And no matter which way you go through the doors, it loops back into a copy of itself, which gives you this endless feeling of a street, of a downtown city. You're getting lost everywhere you go. So that technique was it got me pretty far as things I could do. I can randomize my music. I was able to make NPCs, which themselves have random options on them, which gives you, one puppet can be 10 different, 20 different NPCs with just the use of randomization and keyframes. So this was, like I said, pretty much a huge revelation, this technique. And like I said, I'm sure I'm not the first to discover it or use it this way, but in case you aren't aware, you can really make your games dynamic and add a lot of a lot more replay value to your games by adding a randomization factors like this. And it's not just level design. Like I said, the technique can be used literally on anything in the game that you would want to randomize. It also, using the emitters and the randomization of emitters, you save a lot of your gameplay memory and objects. So using this technique, it's like it's now possible to go back to a game like Dark Souls and recreate what I truly wanted in the forest area, which was an endless Lost Woods kind of feeling, like the Zelda Lost Woods. I can now do that because I figured out how to use a technique that I can use one tree instead of 90 trees that take up all my memory. Now I can just use one tree, emit that tree randomly a bunch, and I have a different forest every time you load into it. So that being said, I will be rehashing some of my older games with newer logic and things I figure out. So in the future, I would look forward to a Dark Souls remastered, if you will. In the meantime, basically learn how to use the randomizer, learn how to use the keyframes, and the object emitters. With the object emitter, you can control a lot of factors, and then the objects themselves, you can control factors on those, and when they're emitted, it emits all of the logic that comes with that object anyway. So if you do a lot of planning and setting up, you can find ways to use these simple little techniques and get a lot out of it. Like I said, this house, I found somebody made a basic 2-story house that was pretty simple and low on the thermo. So I grabbed that. I stripped out everything I didn't need, kept what I did need. In fact, the one that's in the video is not the finished product. It has an attic level, which I removed because I needed more space. I took out a bunch of the windows because each one of those windows was an individual object, and it's on the inside and the outside, as you can see there. So a lot of useless things taking up space that I removed, which if you're using somebody else's assets from the Dreamiverse, I would suggest you always either save it out as a separate creation and strip out everything. Make sure you look into it. I find a lot of things come loaded with fog and lighting that you don't need just to showcase it. A lot of things can be removed. Then you go from there. Leave yourself as much space as you can to work with on thermo, especially with this technique that I've been talking about with the randomization of emitting objects. You're already saving yourself a lot of space by only needing one of any object that you plan on having. There's other areas that I've used. Basically I've used this in every area now that I've once I figured it out. So in the cul-de-sac, all the cars that can be looted are random. In the city area, the cars, the benches, the trees, pretty much every object that is part of the landscape that isn't a permanent feature is randomized. The sky settings are randomized. The music is randomized. So it could be any time of day or lighting, different songs every time you go in and out. And with a little bit of tweaking and control, you can make it feel as natural as walking down an endless street. I also used the technique in an office building to create the illusion of going up the floors of an office building and getting to the roof. Like I said, the way you use the technique is up to you, and like many of the things I talk about, it can be used in multiple ways, and there's probably better ways to do what I'm doing as well. I don't know. I pretty much figure this out as I go along. I've stopped looking up videos because I found that I'm in an in-between spot where the people that make videos are making them for people who are below my level, but the real technical stuff is above my level, so it's best if I just reverse engineer things and figure them out on my own, which is why I don't really do tutorials or try to explain things or how they work. I can only encourage you to figure them out, or to find something that works in a way that you understand, and then, or at least in a way that you can pick it apart and make it work the way you want. As far as like the techniques I'm talking about, it's pretty simple. If you understand how the randomizer works, you're just making all the random conditions you want possible, and then hooking them into the randomizers, and then setting the randomizer to work the way you want. It is on by default. This is what helped, like, actually the randomizer being on by default is how I learned how to use it properly, because I kept getting a zombie spawning when I did not want one spawning, and I was like, I'm not sending a signal to the randomizer. Why is it doing that? Well, it's on by default, so anything plugged into it, by default, when you start, it will randomly select one of those ports. So if you don't want it to automatically do it, like in the cul-de-sac, I didn't want the zombie at first I didn't want the zombie to automatically spawn. I wanted it to be triggered by you shooting the gun. Later I changed my mind, but I was able to understand that the randomizer was kicking on immediately, and if you want it to not come on immediately, you need to hook the power source up to something that you want to trigger it, as it also sends a signal. In which case, you don't need to also send a signal, because that's redundant. You're turning it on automatically is causing randomization. If you want it to stay on and then keep doing something random, then you would hook something into the input and have that triggered by whatever it is you want. So like, I don't want the zombies to spawn until you shoot your gun. So the gunshot's his trigger. That's hooked up to the power. When a gunshot happens, it powers the randomizer. It picks a random set of zombies to spawn. There are many ways to set that up and do it. And then again, it doesn't have to be zombies. It doesn't have to be characters. It could be buildings. It could be lighting. It could be colors. It could be any set of factors that you want to have randomized. And this is especially helpful when it comes to creating a natural scene, such as a random city, a park, a forest, anything that you want to be randomized to feel natural. You could do it with this, and then like I said, you can either control it or it can be on. So in the case of wanting a level that creates creates itself randomly, you would leave them on. So every time you leave and come back, it's a new place. And with like I said, I made a city, a downtown city street that's endless. And with that, each doorway at the end of each street just leads back into another doorway, and a copy of the same level, which you can do within the dream. So when you go into the downtown, one of the doorways is connected out, but the rest of them are connected to a copy of the downtown, which just makes it look like you're going down an endless set of streets. So once again, calling back to previous videos, using the techniques to create environment in conjunction with the randomization of those elements and techniques can be used to create some really dynamic and endless scenes, which if you are not prone to building levels and diving in and really being able to quickly build things, maybe you built one thing and it's really good, but it takes up a lot of space or whatever the case may be, you can use these techniques to bring a whole level of life and dynamic interaction to it. And then again, that's just limited to your abilities and your choices that you make and how you implement these things. I mean, if you have specific questions about how I do certain things or what kind of techniques, I'm more than happy to kind of, point you in the right direction. Like I've said before, I'm not big on giving a tutorial or hand holding, but if you need to know how I did something, I'm not a secret keeper. I will tell you how I did it and why I did it that way. And if you want to know how to do it yourself, use it for something, I can give you ideas on how to do things. So feel free to ask questions or comment in the comments. I check them a lot. I do a good job, I think, of responding when I feel it's necessary. So if you have questions about how I do things, because I don't cover them, I know that I show a lot of things and I do a lot of things and I don't address them. So if you have questions or anything, feel free to ask or comment below. Other than that, this wasn't really, like I said, an in-depth theory video. It was more of a, hey, I found this technique and this is a way you can use it in conjunction with some of the other theories in helping you design your levels. I just used this house as an example because it was the first, this is what I did with this technique. This is the first usage of it, and it evolved. And I will go ahead and clip in a few clips of like the endless street and everything that I was saying at the end of this video, and sort of showcase my usage of it. Other than that, thank you for watching if you're still watching, and you know I appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the videos, hope you enjoy the discussion about theory and game design, and if you haven't played any of my games, go play them, and if you have, I hope you enjoy them, and I will continuously update them as I get inspired to, and I will be adding more. I'm currently working on, yet again, a 4th game, and it's a simple one. It seems to be my pattern. Do something more in depth, then take a break and do something simple real quick, then do another in-depth thing, and then do another simple thing. So here we are. I'll showcase some videos from this game that I'm showing here, which is called The Little Dead, and I'll make a few devlogs about that, but I'm already working on something else, and then I've got plans to go back to Dark Souls and do some remastering with some of the new techniques I've learned, and some of the things I've learned, like why making the game and your player the same is not a good idea, and why making a game chip that runs your game in each scene in the background is way smarter than trying to do everything on your character all the time. So I'm learning things that are helping me out, which I will pass along as I learn them, and we will maybe improve our game design together. And good luck out there. If you have any cool dreams that you've made and you want to share them, send me a link or send me the title. I'll look it up. I'll play them. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Goodbye.